The multidimensional self, a journey beyond ordinary perception. Barn, the hidden presence you may not be fully here. A part of you, silent, invisible, could be existing right now in a place beyond space, beyond time, beyond everything you've ever called real. You don't feel it in the rush of your morning routine. You don't hear it in your internal monologue. But somewhere beneath the chatter of your mind and the pull of gravity on your body, something deeper is moving. A version of you that exists without memory, without aging, without limitation. It's not that you're dreaming, it's that a deeper part of you might be awake somewhere else. The physics of hidden dimensions. Physics tells us we live in a universe of 4 dimensions. Up, down, forward, back, and time. Yet our best theories, the ones that try to unify everything from black holes to quarks, insist that more dimensions are not only possible but necessary. One of them, the so-called 11th dimension, is the silent stage on which everything you know may be playing out. But what does that mean for you? If reality has 11 layers and you only move through 4, are you even complete? Across ancient maps of mystics and cutting-edge models of theoretical physicists, a strange pattern emerges. The idea that identity, what you call I, might not be locked inside a skull or bound by birth and death, that consciousness could extend beyond biology, beyond chronology, that your presence in this life might be more like a projection from a self you've never met. M theory and the architecture of reality. You move through space as if it's all there is. Forward, backward, side to side, up and down. Time drags you along like a current. But what if these familiar dimensions are just shadows on the wall, and the room is much larger than you've ever imagined? In physics, M theory attempts something bold, to unify all known versions of string theory into one coherent framework. To do so, it doesn't just add complexity, it adds dimensions. Not 5, not 7, but 11. According to this model, the universe is built not from particles but from tiny vibrating strings. These strings don't just stretch in 3 spatial dimensions, they ripple across up to 10 spatial dimensions plus time. But here's the mystery, you don't see them, you don't feel them. Where are they? They're compactified, folded so tightly that they're invisible, like threads curled into the thickness of a page. You live on what physicists call a 3-brain, a 3-dimensional membrane, floating in higher dimensional space. You are embedded in this sheet like a character drawn on a piece of paper, unable to lift your head to see the air around you, and yet that space exists. In this higher dimensional realm, entire universes, entire realities may be stacked, like pages in a book just micrometers apart, but separated by a direction you can't even conceive. Go the deeper self. You think of yourself as a single thread, a name, a story, a body waking up in the same bed each morning. But what if that thread is only one strand in a much larger weave, and the rest of you is unfolding somewhere else? Carl Jung called it the self, not the ego, not the conscious mind, but something vaster, a totality of being that includes both shadow and light, conscious and unconscious, personal and transpersonal. In his vision, this deeper self wasn't limited to the mask you wear. It stretched beneath time, connecting moments, identities, and even lifetimes, a single field of meaning expressing itself through many forms. Mystics from the East hinted at the same thing. In Vedanta, the true self, the Atman, isn't just a spark within you. It's the infinite reflecting through the finite. The Gnostics saw the soul not as whole but scattered, fragmented across dimensions like light through a prism. If consciousness is layered and multidimensional, what does that mean for your experience right now? Have you ever had a dream so real it felt more vivid than waking? A moment of déjà vu that felt like a memory you weren't supposed to have? An intuition that arrived before the event, precise and inexplicable? These aren't glitches. They're bleed-throughs, glimpses through the veil, echoes from selves not bound to this here and now. A consciousness's field. Imagine if your thoughts were just ripples on the surface, and the real awareness was the ocean, beneath, not just metaphorically, but physically, structurally. What if your consciousness is not in your head, but your head is in your consciousness? This isn't mysticism wrapped in science. It's a growing suspicion among physicists, philosophers, and consciousness researchers that what we call mind might not be an emergent byproduct of neurons, but a field fundamental to reality itself. David Bohm, a quantum physicist whose mind moved between equations and intuition, proposed that what we experience is the explicate order, the visible, measurable, tangible world. But behind it exists the implicate order, a deeper, enfolded dimension where everything is connected and where the separation between objects, beings, and moments collapses. In this model, consciousness doesn't emerge from matter. It expresses through it. The projection of self? Perhaps what you think of as yourself is a projection, not in the illusory sense, but in the geometric sense. Like a three-dimensional object casting a two-dimensional shadow, your waking mind, your linear memories, all of it may be the shadow. The real structure, the full self, may exist in higher dimensional space. It's not that you're living a lie. It's that you're living one dimension of a much larger truth. If M theory is right and our universe is a brain within an 11-dimensional field, then why should consciousness obey different rules? Maybe awareness too is brain-bound, or maybe it's what flows between the brains, the connective tissue, the field that remembers everything because it is everything. This echoes from beyond. You wake from a dream, heart racing, tears on your face, but it wasn't this life, not these people, not this world. It felt more real than waking ever has. You can't explain it. You shake it off. But the feeling lingers like an unfinished sentence written across your soul. These are not just dreams. Sometimes there's something else. Across cultures and centuries, people have spoken of visions, lucid states, and moments of eerie knowing that defy explanation. A child describes a place they've never been in exact detail. A person in deep meditation feels themselves dissolve, not into nothingness, but into a larger presence watching from beyond. In deep meditation, the boundary of self often begins to blur. The sense of I thins. There's still awareness, but it stretches. Some report encounters with a version of themselves that feels both intimate and unfamiliar, wiser, older, somehow beyond the flow of time. From a dimensional perspective, these could be points of resonance, moments, where the frequency of your embodied self aligns. However briefly, with a version of you existing elsewhere, the interface glitches. The veil thins. You touch yourself from beyond. The greater self awakens. What if those edge experiences aren't marginal but central? Not interruptions but invitations? What if you're not imagining the presence, watching you in the silence behind your thoughts? What if that presence is you somewhere in the 11th dimension? Not floating above, not looking down, but moving beside you always. A greater self may already be awake, not a god, not a guide, just the part of you that never fragmented, never forgot, never fell asleep inside this story, and maybe every now and then it reaches across the dimensional veil, not with answers, just with a feeling, a quiet remembering, a sudden clarity, a pulse in the heart that says without sound, I am still here. On the unfinished story, you've lived your whole life as a singular being, a name, a voice, a history of choices. But what if this identity is just one face on a multi-sided jewel? What if the rest of you isn't lost, just living elsewhere? Not in the future, not in the past, but in a dimension where time isn't linear and self isn't singular. The 11th dimension isn't just a scientific abstraction. It's a symbol, a pointer, a way to imagine the unimaginable, that your awareness may be vast, multi-threaded and operating in spaces your senses cannot reach. Perhaps when you dream of lives that aren't yours, they are. Perhaps when you feel a truth that makes no logical sense, it's because logic is a local language and your being speaks a broader dialect. There's no proof to hold in your hands, no equation to settle the question. Only the subtle gravity of your own inner knowing. The quiet suspicion that what you've called I is just the beginning. If that's true, then this life, this personality, this moment is not the whole story. It's a chapter. And somewhere in the dimensional pages around you, other parts of your story may already be unfolding, watching, waiting, whispering. Not to pull you away, but to remind you what you are, not broken, not small, just unfinished. And maybe that's the most beautiful thing. If the rest of you is out there, what will it take to feel whole? We're not here to find all the answers, just to remember the questions that matter.